Hello, 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 and welcome to my live stream. In the chat, if you're new here, type new. If you've been following me for a while and are chiming in live or on the replay, let me know where you're watching from. And for those of you all who don't know me, my name is Michelle Williams. I go by the Ignited Teacher here on social media and on YouTube. And what I do on my channel is I help math teachers, math interventionists, and some principals to help their close learning gaps through evidence-based strategies, like some that you'll hear about tonight, and with the hopes of monitoring those strategies and growing your students by one grade level per year. Anything past one grade level is not realistic. One grade level, getting those students to the next grade level is realistic. Do we have sometimes our kids grow past that? Absolutely. So thank you for being here. And also, what I do is I host free monthly workshops. This is my labor of love that I do to help teachers in this climate that we're dealing with the attack on public schools, to get the training that they need. We are in a time where budgets are being slashed. Um, School districts are not receiving the funding that they used to. So this is one way that I extend my expertise beyond any walls, and teachers can watch this at their leisure, PD in your PJs, on my channel. This is a crowdcast channel, and I host a monthly workshop every month, but I don't keep them up. I keep them up for um, 90 days, and then I'll transition to a different group of workshops, because what educators are facing on a regular basis changes, and I want the workshops that I provide that they be timely, and teachers get what they need. And if they need more support, this is not enough. I have my Math Intervention Academy or my Gap Closers membership, that they can enroll and get access to me on a regular basis. I do Zoom calls as well with teachers to give them the support that they're not receiving in the classroom. So check those out when you have a chance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So I got this question in from a new teacher that, well, I'm not going to say new teacher. She's new to my Gap Closers membership. So she was introducing herself, and she was saying that, um, I'm new to math. She had always done reading, and she was new to the intervention space for math. And she said, you know what? The thing that she's always concerned about is how far does she go back to close those gaps? And that is an excellent question. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would have never thought about it, because I have been teaching for 26 years and my lens is a little wider than most, but it was an excellent opportunity for me to share my response to her question with you all, because I'm pretty sure this is a question that most people have. So, the first step, and let me go ahead and move, is the data. Your data is where you begin with. Data or data. And we're not just talking about numbers. We're talking about qualitative data, your observations that you see every day in your classroom. You may see a student struggling with the reading, but really good with the computation part. So those are some things that this will not tell you. I identify this data set as the what. It tells you what the kids are struggling with. It doesn't tell you why, because what will tell you why is this student work analysis. That's going to tell you why. And honestly, I forgot that I had this. I created this a long time ago. And I don't even remember why I created it. It may have been for me or maybe a workshop. I think it might have been a work conference that I was presenting at. So the student work analysis, I just kind of put my brain on paper and how I analyze student work. So based on the student's work, it's the first step question. I asked 5 questions. Based on the student's work, what concept does the student understand? So what does the student understand? Let me get some water. So what does the student understand? Then we go into what concepts does the student not understand? So your expertise is important in here. So can you identify basically what they don't understand from what they're supposed to know, understand, and what do they not understand? Then the third one, at what grade level are these concepts taught? Because closing gaps is not about grade level content. It's meeting the students where they are. It's like this gap right here. And I really need to have this a visual created. So here's the learning gap. They before the learning gap are the skills that they're supposed to have. And we're going to call those gateway skills or prerequisite skills. Here's the skills they're supposed to have. But there's gap is in the middle, and here are the skills that they need for the current grade placement. So the learning gap is the place between what they're supposed to know in the grade level versus where they actually are. It's that gap in between. So to close that learning gap, you have to meet them where they are, which is probably over here, not here at their grade level. So at what grade level are those concepts taught? Which I'm going to address that because this is an issue where she was talking about, well, how far do we go back? And I'm going to address that. What is the student's work ethic like? Meaning, will the student disengage? Will the student persevere? Persevering is something that is taught over time. And in order for students to persevere and not give up, you have to give them the tools to not give up. That means, do you have anchor charts that the children can use in your classroom, around the classroom, that they can reference? Do they know who to talk to when they can't get it? And do the other kids know not to give them the answer unless they help them, unless they have some work on their paper? Because that's an expectation in my classroom. You don't get any help with a blank paper, because what you're asking me or another student to do is actually do your work. Is he or she a can do or won't do student? And you're probably saying, well, what's a can do, won't do? A can do is a student that can do the work with some perseverance but won't do it. Those are students that get caught up in this learning gap situation, because they can do it but won't do it without you prompting them. So those are not true students who have gaps. They have work ethic issues. And the last question is, should you begin your intervention and why? This is just a thought process. And I know I have probably some secondary teachers that are going to ask, Well, how do I do this for every student? You don't. So here's a solution for secondary student teachers for analysis, student analysis. So you create a high, medium, and low work um, groups with their work. Put your high kids, your medium, your own grade level kids, and your kids that are working below grade level. And you look at generally the characteristics are the same. Some of them nor are maybe different, but look at what those kids that working below grade level are struggling with as a group, not as individuals. And then there may be some outliers in that data or the student work where you say, okay, this student really has an issue. And that's how you get around those large classes. But don't try to look at each one individually until you're in your classroom and you're observing the students. That's how I used to do it, to see where my students work. So how this gap closing thing works, it works with two things. It starts, how does it begin? It begins with two things: your quantitative data, your qualitative data, the what and the why, and then you need to do a student work analysis. That's why you can't do everything on computers. You can't. And you chat GTP teachers, you have to be able, you are still in control. And I'm going to introduce you all to my math gap mapper. And it's based on my thinking. I configured it with my brain, just like the student work analysis. I'm probably going to add that to it. Um, but I'm going to show you how to use this math gap mapper, and the only way you can access it, you have to be a member of Gap Closers, which is only $7 a month. Real easy. um, Let me show you. All righty, so I love this tool because it is helpful for teachers that may be new to the profession and um you know may be new to math, just like the lady who asked this question was new to math. So what I did is dropped in a picture of a student who, long time ago, probably 2016, I still had some of this student's work, and I dropped it in here. It was just a picture of it, and this is what came out of it. All right, so let me hold on one second. Let me move it up. I'm trying to move it. All right, so it says here's the analysis report for the student work sample you provided. Conversion of this, we were working on converting fractions greater than one whole to a mixed number. And you know that, well, you may not know, I knew that my students, some could not divide. So I had to teach the students another way to convert a fraction greater than one whole. And it was through decomposing fractions. So it says summary: the student accurately decomposes 7 halves into whole units and a remaining half, showing emerging understanding. So it pinpoints that this student is at emerging. Now, the question is, how far do we go back? How far do you go back depends on what the standard or student expectation or level or mastery is at that grade level. So some grade levels are still conceptual, like K through fourth are still basically conceptual. But when you get to fifth grade, you move to a more abstract. It's a continuum from concrete to abstract concepts. So with this student, I was teaching fifth grade at the time. This student was still at the emerging, which is the conceptual level. That's not where she was supposed to be. And some teachers believe that, oh, well, they can get the answer. But did they meet the student expectation for that concept? And this student did not. But could she get it right on a yes? If we had to take a test, the student would have gotten it right. But for teaching purposes and for teaching the concepts to mastery, this student would not have mastered this skill because they were drawing it conceptually. So back to what the prompt, ChatGPT says after analyzing. It says that the student accurately decomposes 7 halves into whole units and a remaining half showing emerging understanding of improper to mixed number conversion using visual models. Now, that's a key point, is visual models and unit fraction reasoning. So this student has the thinking. Anytime you see reason, they're talking about the thinking behind it. And that's what conceptual understanding does. It's the thinking and the why behind why the algorithm works. If your students do not understand the division, you go back to the conceptual model, which is decomposing fractions. Decomposing fractions can be found in third grade. How do I know? Because I taught third grade. So let's look here. She has not met the fifth grade student expectation because she has the thinking and reasoning and she can convert it, but not abstractly using division. So here's what it says: likely missing skills and standards. Fractions as division. That is a fifth grade skill, as you can see. It says fractions as division may not fully connect 7 halves to 7 divided by 2. Relies on pictures instead of quantitative reasoning. Quantitative means numbers. Remember I said that. So this will be connected to fifth grade number fractions B3 if we were a Common Core state. Equivalence and composition of unit fractions. Shows halves correctly but may not generalize the process behind halves. So now it's giving you some you don't have to go looking for that needle in the haystack. It tells you, hey, this student may not understand it beyond halves. So maybe you need to try another fraction that's greater than one whole, that may be thirds, fifths, 6/8 or something else with a different denominator. Then let's see, decomposing improper fractions conceptually. Understands part to whole but might need support linking repeated addition to multiplication structure. So you see how it gives you ideas of where the student is and skills and standards that may be missing. Remember, I told you about that. Okay, this is where the student needs to be, this is where the student is, and this part in the middle is the learning gap. That's what it's giving you to connect where the student is to where the student needs to be. These standards are in the middle. So let me go back. All right, um, so it tells you what is missing, and it tells you coherence. That's that connecting piece. Foundational, go back to third grade. I already told you it was in third grade. Same grade, and then it tells you how to connect what you need to teach. 3NF, unit fractions as 1 over b represent fractions on a number line, equivalent fractions. This is a starting point. I'm not saying that is correct because remember, we're dealing with human beings, but it gives you a starting point to where you can go. Then it connects it to the 5NF number fractions, B3, interpret a fraction as division, model, multiplication of fractions. And then it says upcoming. So if you wanted to look where the student needs to go in sixth grade, interpret and compute quotients of fractions. That's the whole vertical alignment piece that you would need to look at and to find your starting point. Now, it does also give you checks for understanding. Do fold paper strips to show 7/2 and regroup into wholes. Write both forms. It says draw 7/2 on a number line. Each group of 2/2 form 7/2 means, and so it gives you, and again, you are the human. This is a starting point to help you support your content knowledge to help you quickly close that gap. So they're saying take the child where she is 7/2, but then say 7/2 means 7 divided by 2. So remember, we're here, student is here, need to be here. This is the gap. And then they have a reteaching with timing, concrete. This is the CRA, concrete, representational, and abstract. Those are the pieces. And not all of them are going to be abstract, depending on what grade level you're at, because some of the things are not abstract. They, like fractions in third grade, are not abstract. Fourth grade, they do, because you start adding fractions and then you get to mixed numbers and fractions greater than one whole. And then they have on here some mini tasks, so you don't have to go. That's why I keep telling teachers, please do not invest in things, math intervention kits. Everything that you need to close gaps in intervention, it's in your building, unless you're in middle school. Then find an elementary teacher to connect with. That's what you do. Find an elementary teacher to connect with and then get those sheets from her. Stop spending your money on things that you already have. If you're going to spend money on something, spend money on increasing your content knowledge and increasing your skills. Because I'm telling you, we hop around. I hopped around a lot. I've worked in a lot of different school districts. And what you cannot take with you is programs at another school. And what you cannot take with you are things that may have worked at that school that may not work at these other schools. So you start to accumulate a lot of resources and worksheets that you can no longer use. And then progress monitor. In Gap Closers, Math Intervention Academy, I teach the teachers in there, you do not progress monitor what you didn't reteach the same way. So if you were focusing on moving from conceptual to abstract, then that's how you progress monitor those kids. Please don't give those babies a test prep question and then you say, oh, they didn't do well. Of course they didn't. That's not what you were teaching. You progress monitor the way that you teach. reteach. Progress monitoring is not this huge monster that they make it. Your intervention is what the gaps that you need to close. Okay? And it fits at like a puzzle piece into what your school has. The school is supposed to do the universal screening. And if you're following the process, which is my math intervention cycle, let me go back to it. I'm going to go back to my math intervention cycle. This is the reteach part. You should, when your school district does that BOY, MOY, EOY, beginning of the year, middle of the year, you should see the kids move. That means if you are actually following a process, and this is my process, and it is proven to move and close gaps because you can take it anywhere, you can apply it to any student. It's a process. Resources do not close gaps. Your process, the strateginess, the skill set, your content knowledge is what close gaps. Trust in yourself, because I do. Because when people say, well, that's not going to work, well, they can't tell me it's not going to work, because I have 20 years of experience of working with above grade level learners, emerging bilingual students, English language learners, and students who have worked below grade level. So the process works, and I have used it over and over and over again. You can bet your last dollar on that. So back to my math gap mapper. I probably should call it something else because I can't even pronounce it. So at the end, it says we're learning how fractions greater than one can be renamed as whole numbers and leftover parts. For example, 7 halves equals 3 whole pieces and 1 more half. And guess what? You can only get access to this in my Gap Closers membership. And I created this because some teachers are going to do well on their own. They could watch this and say, you know what, I could follow her process on my own, and that's fine. Math Gap Closers was created to address a problem in our profession, is that we have a lot of new teachers and people that are being having to teach math and not are comfortable with it. So I give you my strategies, and I offer this too, so that you can throw it in there and you'll have something to follow. And don't get caught up on saying, oh, well, it's Common Core. We're all teaching the same thing. The only thing that is different is at what grade level is taught. All states teach the same concepts. Let me say it again. All states teach the same math concepts. It just depends on what grade level is taught at, and for Texas, because they're always trying to be different, what math manipulatives that they are using. If you're using a Bluebonnet curriculum, I highly recommend that you use some base 10 blocks, because the Bluebonnet curriculum, which is Eureka Math, which is based on Singapore math, it does not use base 10 blocks. It refers to number disc, and I like number disc. I do. I don't have a problem with base 10 blocks are too foreign for kids. At least the number disc looks like money. And what I did this summer, I was supporting my grandson, reteaching and teaching him third grade skills. He caught on to those number discs really, really easy. So when he went to third grade and they were doing their little number discs or even base 10 blocks, which he already knew about, he could make the jump between both of them. So if you want to
Grammarly now
learn
uses
more,
AI to help you write, not just revise. Type a prompt and generate a persuasive, mistake-free draft.
if your students are still, I have a math intervention playlist that you can watch, and it talks about this on my YouTube channel. If you're on Instagram, you can, because I'm live streaming to Instagram. If you're on Instagram, you can comment #tips and it'll take you over to my YouTube channel so that you can watch this playlist if you so choose to. So I hope this didn't blow your mind, because if it did, that means you need to join my Gap Closers membership for the low price of $7. And also, don't forget, as I close this out, don't forget to check out my free monthly workshops. Right now, I have implementing the math intervention cycle. That's one workshop. I did that for, oh, that was October's workshop. I have September's workshop, which is effective lesson planning for math intervention. And then for August, I hosted a workshop on making time for math intervention. So I got you covered with those gaps. So thank you for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful. If you know a colleague that needs this help, shoot them the link and tell them to join me in one of my free workshops. I'll be having one November. It's going to be late because of Thanksgiving. I normally do it the last week of every month, but Thanksgiving. And then I'll go into my 12 days of giveaway, which I am excited. I may be giving away, you know what? I may give away a membership for my Gap Closers. I'll be thinking about that. So if you don't join Gap Close, I'll see you in my next live stream or in my next free workshop. Have a great rest of your Sunday evening, and thank you for spending these 30 minutes with me. I hope that what I presented today was so helpful for you. Bye-bye.